Sometimes talking with friends feels like role-playing. Sometimes it feels like combat. Join us at the Round Table and Roll Initiative. This is Curmudgeons and Dragons.
Hello, adventurers! Welcome to another Curmudgeons and Dragons. My name is Jason Portizo. Today, I am joined by Mr. Jim Crocker.
Hello, adventurers.
Oh, hey, Jim. How you doing, Jim?
Good. How are you?
I feel like I just introduce you, and then we don't hang out.
I mean, we don't know. We just get right to it. These DMAcademy ones, people want practical advice, so I feel like
they don't want to sit here and listen to us floundering for content.
Not really. No, I don't think so.
All right, fine. We'll just jump into it.
Yeah.
All right, first story today. All of this is from Reddit's DMAcademy subreddit. Great place for things like this, not only for asking for advice, but for people just freely giving advice. We got a little bit of both today. So this first post here is from user Durnan's Ghost, and it's titled, "Do you tell your players about legendary resistance? I was recently running a session where my players were fighting a creature with 3 per day legendary resistance. When I cast spells, I would roll a save behind the screen, and if the creature failed, use one of its legendary resistances to pass. But I would just tell the players that the spell had no effect. It occurred to me that they probably just believe that the rolls were really good. Is that how you would play it? Or do you tell them something more? Do you tell them that he failed his roll, but the spell still had no effect? Do you flat out say he uses his legendary resistance? Just wondering how my fellow DMs handle this issue in combat." Jim, how do you deal with this?
I am pro as much transparency as you think your campaign can handle. We've talked about the fact that most of my DMing, I haven't done much since the pandemic, but certainly prior to that, when I owned a game store, the vast majority of my DMing experience came teaching people to play the game, with teaching people that were new. And so the odds that the first time I dropped a monster with legendary resistance on somebody, it was an entire table that had never seen it before and didn't know what it was, very high. And this is one of those things where, your mileage may vary a little bit depending on, if you're playing with a table full of, DMs and hardcore, players and stuff like that find this interesting to try and ferret out what's going on with the monsters and stuff like that. That is a play style. And if that's what your table wants, then you can do that. But I am more often than not, almost all the time, if it's me running the game, I am inclined to not only tell legendary resistance, but, they cast a spell. I say, well, its save against that is 8. Let's see what happens. Oh, I got an 11. It's going to save against that. And am quite open about that. I may not at the beginning of combat say it's save versus, its dex save is this, its strength save is this. But as those happen, I'm going to let the players know what's going on and what they're shooting for. Because to my mind, especially if they're at the point where they're fighting a creature with legendary resistances, that is a shortcut to saying, well, as an experienced fighter, from the way that your sword bounces off its armor, that you're going to have to strike a blow harder than you normally would in order to penetrate the plates between its, blah, 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 blah. You just say, it's got AC 24, dude. And that is all kind of built into that. And explaining those legendary resistances works the same way, to my mind.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever just tell them that the spell failed. I think I would give some allusion to why. For newer players, which is the vast majority of who I'm playing with, I would flat out say it's oh, he failed the roll. He is going to use a legendary resistance and then spin it into the story.
Yeah.
I think with more advanced players, I would just spin it into the story without actually saying the words.
And because they'll know what that's like, it just dodges out of the way is, okay, it made the save. The spell hits it solid on, and you see it dissipate as it laughs.
Yeah.
Fools, you hadn't counted on how powerful I've become. That's a legendary resistance, right?
This isn't even my final form.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go.
I think I would make some allusion to him and I might even say my die roll. It's like all right, he rolled an 8, but with a hand wave, the spell dissipates.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Something like that. Yeah. So they know what's
I don't think players should ever need to know how many legendary resistances you have. I think that that is DM's privilege.
Yeah, and
it's almost always 3, but just like, let us have something.
Sure, but with new players, I might say something like, and he's going to use an ability that's called Legendary Resistance. And what this does is, because there's 5 of you against 1 of him, he's got the ability to make up for the fact that you get 5 tries, for every 1 that he gets. He can occasionally throw off an effect that otherwise would affect him. He only has a limited number of those. So once those are used up, then you can pound on him.
If we're at that level of explaining, I may even say he has a limited amount. It's typically 3. I'm not going to tell you how many he has.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll flat out tell players I'm not telling them things.
Yeah. Yeah.
They usually love it. They usually love that. But I think I think playing that to the experience level of your table is the way to handle it.
Cool. But I do actually think, I do completely agree with you. Even if they know what's going on and you don't list the number of them, I do think you got to kind of show them that something happened there that wasn't just, like you said, just they made the save.
Yeah, having it look no different than actually failing the roll or than actually passing the roll is not giving your players enough information. I think you should at least allow them to derive. And I am fully on record. I love deriving.
Yeah. I had a couple of posts, but I'm going to deliberately read this one first because it kicks off from what we were talking about with new players and learning and how much of the game that you want to tailor to teaching versus just playing. This is from Redditor Static Bomber _, and it is under the category Need Advice Other. DMing for 9 to 16-year-olds, how ?
That's the best way to ask that question.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
How?
So here is what they say. I will be starting a table at my local library. The age groups and just Hooray local libraries. I'm just going to put that in there. Local libraries that let you run D&D in the library are awesome, and there should be more of them. The age groups range from 9 to 16 years old, with some of the parents occasionally stopping by for a game. The table will be 6 to 8 people on a good day. I disagree. Okay. It will be 8 people on a bad day, but that's a situation where you may not have any say over that. So we're just going to take as read that the library says you got to run with this many people.
Sometimes public games are very public.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. My question is, where do I start? Character creation. Do I allow the people around the table to create their own characters? If so, it will take up nearly the entire first session, and I'm worried if we don't get into the game quick, I will lose interest and have little to no recurring players the next week, and will fall into a cycle of never-ending character creation. Point buy or 4d6 drop lowest? Neither is the answer to that question, but we'll get to that. Adventure/module/campaign homebrew. Do I run a campaign? Typically, we run groups for 8 to 12 weeks before taking a couple-week break. I want something I can finish, possibly an episodic story that people can check in and out of, which is why I was thinking of doing a Magic School Bus-esque story where the players are transported to a different one-shot every week, allowing players to miss a week without missing too much. Rules and game theory. How much of the rules do I hammer home before just diving into the first session? Should I just get them into their characters and throw them to the wolves? What I have noticed with kids is they're way more likely to want to read through the player handbook than any adult friends.
Which, yay for those kids.
Yay for those kids.
Has not been my experience.
Yes.
Has not been my experience.
Well, sorry. I was that kid. But,
sure.
But that was in, 1980. So
you know what?
It's a little different.
Maybe I was that kid too. I don't know. Okay. A lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff here.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe.
So let's go over here. So
take it from the top.
Where do we start? Where do we start with this, Jim?
Character creation. Do I allow people to create their own characters? So my advice on this is you frame a session that is explicitly character creation, as in learn how to build a D&D character. That's what we're going to do this session. There's no play. There's no, it is just everybody get together and we're going to build characters. And you can have as many people at that as you want.
Sure.
You can have 15 people come and talk everybody through building characters and go step by step.
If you're comfortable like leading more of a workshop type of situation rather than like a game table, absolutely. In fact, that's something, Jim, I reached out to you recently. Well, that's something you and I are going to work on because I've been asked to do a new player workshop at the store that I'm running games at. And there's already interest for like a workshop I haven't built yet. So no pressure, but we got to knock that out.
And what you may get is, you may get 15 people that show up to build characters who are just curious and don't actually want to commit to playing for 8 weeks, right?
Sure.
They just want to see what's going on, jump in, play. And that's also a thing where that is an activity. And here's the other real nice thing about having a character building session. That is a session where parents can come with their kids and everybody gets to kind of feel each other out. And the parents can see whether they're comfortable leaving their kids with you. The kids can decide whether they're comfortable being at the game there. But there isn't the pressure of having the actual game. And you've framed it as, we're going to do this. If you like it, then play.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thing about
like that 9-year-old range. Like that's important. Not so much like are the kids, whether they're allowed or not, because they're either allowed or they're not, but like knowing that the parents have signed off on it. You have some FaceTime with the parents that the kids cut out of line. It works in both directions.
And you give them the opportunity to, like, if they want to have a custom character, they can. And then you have a stack of pre-gens that anybody that just jumps into the game after that, you hand them a pre-gen.
Yeah.
And maybe you hand them a pre-gen with the name and background blanked out, but otherwise all the stats done. You say, what do you feel like playing? They say, fighter. You hand them, especially if you're going to be leveling up as you go, you hand them a 3rd level fighter and they can jump in and start playing with it. You say, give me a name, tell me what town you're from, and we go from there.
What you've described is exactly how I do it at these store games. I offer the game starts at X time. The meeting before the game starts at X time minus an hour or 2 hours or whatever we need. And that was my solution for brand new players who needed a primer. But you can only squeeze in so much in an hour or two. But for character gen, I told these players that they can bring their own, but it is up to my discretion.
Sure.
So they can bring it, run it by me. And my general rule was like, if you're even able to make it in D&D Beyond, then it's probably fine. But let me just check your items real quick and make sure you're not pulling any shenanigans on me, and we'll go from there. But bring your own, but show up early enough to where we can sign off on it.
Sure.
If you need help making your own, we can either do like a pre-meeting where the game starts at this time, but show up 2 hours early for character creation, and then the stack of pre-gens. Wizards actually has perfectly good pre-generated characters.
Yeah, you can just download for free from the website, right?
Yep, they're out there, and that's what I've been using. They're on these. They're not on like proper character sheets, which is both good and bad. A new player can be very overwhelmed by just the vastness of a full character sheet. So it is like some of them are 2-pagers for Magic users and stuff, but most of them are 1-pagers. I wish they had a little more information on them, or that some of it was a little more obvious to see, like skill proficiencies are like not as pronounced as I'd like them to be. I do have these excellent beginner friendly character sheets that I got from DM Guild. I believe they were free when I got them, or maybe they're like $1. Some negligible
and there's a ton of
money.
like pay what you want. If you dig this, tip me a couple of bucks on DM Guild. Yeah. So
I got beginner friendly character sheets, spell sheets, and a cheat sheet for what you can for what your action options are, and a quick like primer on how all those work. And I tip them like $5. I'll bring those blank, and then we can take a pre-gen and copy over the important things. And then, knowing the campaign we're about to get into, I'll walk through it with them and be like, okay, see this ability right here? You don't need that today. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
But this one right here, maybe read that one twice.
Yeah.
Little nudge right there. But having the option for both is huge.
Yeah. And when you are running a library game for 9 to 16-year-olds and you are doing that character generation session, the correct answer to point buy or 4d6 drop lowest is standard array. Yeah. Don't mess around with that. You'll hand half of them standard array, and they'll be 3/4 of the way through while the other ones are still trying to figure out how to allocate their point buy thing and stuff like that.
Yep.
Just don't even mess around with that. That's an advanced gamer thing. Hit them with the standard array. And in fact, what you might do is even have some pre-filled sheets that have the standard array filled in, kind of penciled in to, you ask a 10-year-old, what do you want to do? And they say, I want to be a thief. And you say, cool, here's a sheet pre-filled for rogue for standard array. Bump the stats you want to. I recommend you bump dexterity. It's already at 15. And don't even have, worry about them trying to figure out, what goes where and where they put their dump stat and whatever. And you don't do that. You don't necessarily do that for everyone. You got a smart 15-year-old who's played before. You just go, cool, standard array, figure it out how you want. But for some of those brand new players, even having a sheet, an otherwise blank sheet that's pre-filled with those standard array abilities, that can be helpful and speed things along.
Sure. I'm very pro standard array. Almost more so than point buy.
Yes. Yep.
I like standard array a lot for especially new players, but even just in general.
Yeah. And
it's designed to be fair.
Especially in a, in a public setting like that. I think that's the right way to go with it. Adventure/module/campaign/homebrew. Do I run a campaign? Typically run groups for 8 to 12 weeks. So here is my hot take on this. And that is, I think this is the perfect situation to bring in a Strixhaven game, because you've got the kind of like the Harry Potter-esque thing. It's very easy to do. Now, it's not like we're going to go into dungeons and necessarily kick in doors and stuff, although you certainly can do that. You can say, oh, we found the hidden sub-basement under Strixhaven, and this adventure, we're going to go down there and try and, put the ghost to rest or something like that. But that is a setting that is custom made for people to just drop in and out of easily, and also to have larger groups, because you can do a thing where, and this is also a thing where splitting the party might not be a bad idea on occasion, to think about, like, you all start in class together, 4 you go do this thing, the 4 you go do that other thing. And it can be a bit of a challenge, kind of separate, be running kind of separate encounters. But you can do that. That's one approach to that. But I would, find as many like pre-made encounters as you can, tweak them so that they can handle 8, and then just have a pile of encounters. And then as they say, we want to do this, boom, you just drop that encounter down there, skin it with, whatever is going on and where they are. And you just run that. And to treat it as kind of a bunch of encounters that you sort of seat of your pants the connections between, but that you don't worry too much about having some kind of involved continuity that ties deeply into their backgrounds and stuff like this.
Yeah, that's kind of how I treat my one-shots, where we, I threw in I had a DM PC that I needed to have because we were short players. And I just kept having the player's sister get into trouble. Yeah. And by the 3rd or 4th time they had to rescue her, they're like, where is she now?
Sure. That becomes a running gag. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my plot hook is taken care of for me. It's great. I like that idea. I'm not familiar enough with Strixhaven, so I'm just going to take your word on that. But
it's Harry Potter D&D basically is what it is. You're all students at a magic school, like a magic academy.
I knew, but is it kind of like Candlekeep, where it's like a series of one shots?
I mean, there's it's here's a campaign setting now, make adventures for it. I know there's some stuff in the book that has like starter scenarios and stuff. Okay. But it's more of like the framework. I unfortunately, as a non-parent, I'm not familiar enough with the Magic School Bus to know exactly what's going on with that. Is it just like a time traveling thing going on with that or something like that?
No, Magic School Bus. And I don't know if you saw my face when you said that, because I got 1,000 ideas. Okay. Magic School Bus. How do I put this succinctly? There's a crazy teacher, Miss Frizzle, and she has a little Magic School Bus, and they go on field trips, but they go on field trips into sciencey stuff. And it's a lot of anatomy and bugs, and like it's teaching the kids science.
Okay.
And like the bus shrinks down or grows into space
go
or
to
goes
the asteroid
underwater
belt or something like that.
It's a magic school bus and go wherever it wants.
Yeah, like I could see that being a thing that you could do, but I feel like you want to have some version of continuity, that it's not just completely unrelated one shots week to week. And it's like, and I imagine, I know this is like a little bit of a tightrope where it's like, we want enough continuity so that people that are coming every week feel like there's a story that's progressing that they're part of, but not so much continuity that someone that is just there to drop in that week is like, what the heck is going on? I have no idea. Or we don't know how to work you into the story, that kind of thing.
The Magic School Bus angle, I think, works pretty well, where like, and you can even frame it in Strixhaven, where like, you have a school thing and they're going on field trips.
Sure, you go. Yeah.
Maybe sometimes you discover the ocean and see what kind of things are down there. Maybe sometimes you usurp a king or kill a god. Just crazy
magic
crazy
carpet
field trip
instead.
stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
And were they asking for any other advice, Jim?
Yeah, the final paragraph here says, rules and game theory. How much of the rules do I hammer home before just diving into the first session? This is how much of the rules you hammer home before diving into the first session. In this game, most of the time, what you're going to do is roll a 20-sided die, add a number to it, and see if you get equal to that number or higher. For everything else, I'll explain it to you as you need it.
Yeah. That plus, I mentioned the quick, like the cheat sheets that I got from DM Guild.
Absolutely.
I do have one it's a half pager. You print it up once, you cut it in half, you got it twice, and it tells you all of your options for your attack of your combat action, and a quick primer on what they do. So like, which is great because it actually helped me clear up some stuff on how hide works.
There you go. Yeah.
I have a rogue player who bonus action hides all the time, and I've not done damage to him in 4 games. So, a quick like overview is like, need to know basis.
Yep.
But here's the things you need to know.
Yeah.
And start off with that. Don't overwhelm them, but give them enough so that they feel like they're actually playing along.
And as they ask,
right?
Yeah. And don't be afraid to say, don't look at the sheet. Tell me what you do. Then we'll look at the sheet together to find out how you do that. Because what they say may just be a thing that, like if they just want to have a conversation with an NPC instead of like, actively try to use deception on them or something like that, you just have that conversation. But, kind of trying to push them to think in terms of fiction first and to be the guide I think that's absolutely the right approach, especially with the younger players, because they can get bogged down in the sheet real easily.
I tell players that, no, you tell me what you're doing, and it is my job to interpret them mechanically. Exactly. You tell me narratively, I will translate mechanically. And that seems to work out pretty well, especially for new players, because then that takes the responsibility of having, several 300-page books memorized out of their
absolutely
out of their realm. We can do one more of these, Jim. I got this one pulled aside, and I was very happy to see it. This is an offering advice. So our job's already done for us. So that's all we got for today. We'll see you guys in the next episode. No, this is from user beneficial show 8081.
This is where we
titled how. What was that?
This is where we critique advice. We say whether it's good advice or not. Yeah.
Actually, this is actually pretty good, and this is a problem that I come up with a lot. Okay. So it's nice to have not only this player telling me how they take care of it, but to have the comments chime in as well. This is how I anti-metagame at my table. I've DM'd for several years now, and I regularly run into this issue. DM, role perception or investigation or survival, etc. Player rolls low. Player 2, I want to do that too. Can I help? I rolled a high roll without being asked. Or player 1 says, that was bad. Someone else should take that. Give your player a statement of how they feel about how they did. A lot of times you can alter this to the situation. For example, a search for traps that results in a low roll. DM, you feel pretty sure that there aren't any traps in the vicinity and you don't notice any. Or DM, you have no idea if there's any traps here or not, but you don't notice any. With this statement in mind, if another player wants to help or roll instead, with this statement in mind, if another player wants to help or roll instead after the fact, it needs to be up to the player that rolled on whether or not the character would ask for help, or on the player asking to help to answer why their character would doubt the original character's skill. I do not allow unwarranted help or additional rolls if the players don't justify their characters doing it based on what the character knows. So the player saying, can I roll too? DM, what's your character's reasoning for taking this action? Or what are you trying to accomplish with the roll? If the player only has the meta reason to roll or help, then no. This also encourages in-character communication before attempting something. So a character saying, hey, someone help me look for firewood for tonight, instead of player saying, I rolled badly, someone else may want to look for firewood. I know this isn't game-breaking metagaming, but I have found that this really helps players to think and communicate as their characters in successes and failure. So yeah, I see this a lot where it's someone's like, I'm going to try to pick the lock, and he doesn't quite do it. You know, players like, oh, let me do the help action. It's like, how are you helping him pick a lock? He's just sitting there, you know, massaging his shoulders, saying, "You got this, you got this." I need you to give me something here, which is actually how the guidance spell works, but that's something else. How do you handle stuff like this, Jim? Because I know it comes up. I'm not going to ask you if you've ever dealt with this. I'm just going to ask how you handle it when it does come up.
So it doesn't come up as often for me as I think it might for other DMs, because
every game.
Yeah, okay. I try as hard as I can not to gate stuff, make it binary like that. I also make, and I think this is one of the, I think I read this and I think this is a post that I read and saw further down. And this is one of the things that immediately occurred to me, which is I use a lot more passive checks too. And this might be a thing where one of the things that I might do, you know, if I was going to house rule this, if you're doing a thing where you're going to give it to the person who is most competent at whatever that is, like you say, lock picking, right? You have the rogue try to pick a lock. And if they fail, and someone else wants to jump onto it, it's like, if your skill isn't at least what his is, you're not going to do it either. Because the check is, and kind of this has a little bit to do with like your philosophy of what a skill check means, right? And so is the rogue skill check to pick that lock just like that single instance of doing it like Fallout style? Did you just happen to snap the lockpick and you just boop, you can just go right in there and do it again? Or does it mean the rogue has tried to pick that lock and that lock is unpickable, period, done, end of story? And, you know, to some extent, the decision to, can you make another check? Can somebody else make another check? That is in the hands of the DM, and you can decide circumstance to circumstance what that is. In general, I'm probably going to say, so what I want is to have there be immediate consequences for that check failing that move the story forward, so that you don't end up with that situation of, I failed the perception check. And everybody sits there like, well, what does that mean? Well, it just means you didn't notice anything. And someone else goes, oh, well, shit. Okay, let me see if I notice anything. You know, and then you say, yeah. And like, if they fail that check, a third person goes, let me see if I notice anything. You don't want that to happen. If you're calling for a check, then you want there to be consequences, like you want them to get something if they succeed, and for something to happen if it fails. And I tend not to let players call for checks, or if they do and there's nothing to find, I'll just say there's nothing to find. I'm very adamant about I tell you when to roll dice. Yes. Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'm just going to walk in the room here, and I got a 16 at perception. It's like, no one asked you to roll perception.
Exactly.
No one asked you to do it.
And that's another thing where we talked about fiction first before, where they say, I roll perception. Don't tell me you roll perception. Tell me what your character does, and I will tell you whether that triggers a check or not. Yeah.
Maybe I'm feeling kooky today, and it's investigation. You know?
Exactly.
I haven't decided what kind of mood I'm in yet. So what I do in these type of situations, and it's usually something along the lines of like an investigation check or like a lockpick or something where it can fail and there's no like pressing time issue where another player can just be like, oh, I guess I'll try it too.
Yeah.
My first question to that player is, what are you adding to the investigation, or what are you doing different? How are you helping this person?
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't tell me narratively how they are approaching it differently, like a lockpick, it's like this player fails. It's like, well, I'm going to try too. It's like, hey, how are you doing it differently? Are you trying? Do you think your lockpick tools are better? Are you using his? Do you have proficiency even? Because if they, like you said, if one player with proficiency tries and the other one just says, "Let me try," and uses the same technique, it's like, no, you're not. That's not going to work. Now, if the rogue fails and the barbarian just wants to break it, okay, then we got different. Then we got different kind of check, and that's
exactly,
fine.
Yeah. For
but
sure,
like,
that's a strength check. Yeah.
Yeah. So like investigation would be like, okay, you don't find anything. Another player says, well, I want to check too. It's like, well, what are you doing differently, or how are you helping in the situation? And they say, well, I look around too. It's like, he already looked around. There's nothing else. There's no other way to look around.
And that's another situation where I try as hard as I can to encourage them to use aid before the check gets made, as opposed to afterwards going, oh, well, that didn't work. Can I try that again? So like lockpick, right? We talk about lockpick. The tumblers on this are pretty complex. So, while the rogue is here doing this, I'm going to be down on the bottom with another pick holding that third tumbler open so that he can get the door open. Cool. Rogue, roll with advantage.
Help action.
Yeah, exactly.
Help action with narrative. You can have all the help actions you want.
Yeah, and I try to kind of push them in that direction, both kind of through narrative and the way the story works, and also just outright saying, hey, you're not going to get a lot of chances to do second checks. So if you want to help each other, declare that when the action is taking place, and we'll figure out how that works.
Yeah. The exception I would make there is like if, say, like the halfling rogue sneaks ahead to investigate a room and doesn't find anything, and the and then the barbarian wants to come in there and like lift the halfling up on his shoulders so he can check up from a better vantage point.
Like toss the place or something. Yeah.
I'll give you the second half of your advantage and let you re-roll the investigation.
Sure. There you go.
The barbarian is not rolling. The barbarian is not looking. The barbarian is helping the, then he can check again. But there actually is a mechanic for, and we'll come back to the lockpicking example, but there actually is a mechanic for failed rolls, and it's supposed, isn't the DC supposed to go up by like 2 or something?
You can do that. There's all kinds of optional stuff. And I mean, and you can start getting into, kind of some into the no kidding deeper optional rules. The DMG actually talks about if you want to do success with consequences or, partial successes, all that kind of, like indie story game shit that I love to do. I import a lot of that stuff in, but that's not necessarily for everybody, and it is optional. So I don't necessarily talk about it a lot when we're having these kind of discussions, but those are absolutely options.
D&D doesn't do partial successes as much as other games do, but some other like smaller games, like one of my favorite like smaller RPG games, Paradox Perfect. Have you heard of this one?
I am not familiar with Paradox Perfect. No.
Game can be completely insane. It's a lot of fun, very funny. There's a unbelievably funny playthrough on the Three Black Halflings podcast.
Okay.
With a lot of the cast from NatPod. They're on the same network as NatPod, and like just excellent show. One of my favorites. I follow them on Patreon. Just absolutely go check out Three Black Halflings. But they did this amazing playthrough of Paradox Perfect with the crew from NatPod, and it is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. But that game deals with partial successes a lot, and I just got my Kickstarter just came in for Avatar Legends.
Oh sure, yes, yeah,
and I'm going to start firing. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game, and that
Powered by the Apocalypse. Yep.
That system is like almost all, like more often than not, you're going to get some kind of mixed success with the way that system handles resolution. I play a lot of those games. I play a lot of Forged in the Dark stuff like Blades in the Dark and Band of Blades and things like that. And that's built into all of those kind of games. Yeah.
Sure. So. I'm a huge Avatar, and I hate that I have to say Avatar Last Airbender. Fuck you, James Cameron.
Fucking James Cameron. Avatar. Yeah. That's funny.
Blue Avatar people. Boring.
Exactly.
Airbending Avatar people. Oh my God. I love that. So that whole series is so good. But I can't really dive into that. But that deals a lot with partial successes.
Yeah.
What this boils down to for this particular story is that like, yes, you can help, and yes, you could try again, but have a narrative reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, again, I I, the DM, will tell you when to make a roll and what kind of roll, and I will decide what your success is.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty much on board with the poster and what they say about how they do it. Like, I might frame it slightly differently, and maybe kind of tweak how the permissions work a little bit. But they're in that ballpark in a way that I don't disagree with in any kind of significant way.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this DM Academy episode. Go check out everything else we have at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. And if you are just listening to us right now, you can go see our beautiful faces over on the YouTube. curmudgeonsanddragons.com/YouTube is the easy link to go find us there. And my big ask for you, if you liked this episode or really any other episode, tell some people about it. If you're playing a game this weekend, that's at least 3 or 4 people you can tell about your favorite new podcast. And go bring in some new listeners, and that would just be fantastic for us. I got a couple things planned, but I can't roll them out until I get at least one little milestone that I need to get over first before I can start launching those things. So if you want more stuff from us, bring us to new people. That's all I ask. It's free. It doesn't cost you a damn thing.
And Jason, can people send us their own horror stories or DM advice questions?
I would love it if people send us their own stories and advice asks and stuff like that. Our email is curmudgeonsanddragonspod@gmail.com, or you can go to curmudgeonsanddragons.com/contact and fill out the form there. We even have a little microphone on the website, and you can go ahead and send us a voicemail. So, don't be weird about that. I will have it up on the website until I have to take it down because you guys are weird. Fantastic. But that's all I got. Jim, you got anything else?
No, these are super fun. I love doing these DM Academy episodes.
I love the Academy episodes. Yeah. I want to make sure we keep doing the horror stories and the Academy episodes, and I'm fine with that being kind of what we do for a little while.
Yeah.
I do have a few other ideas, but that's you're just gonna have to wait and find out.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Jim.
You bet.
Thank you, adventurers.
Thank you for listening to Curmudgeons and Dragons. Please share this with your favorite adventurers. Leave a review on Apple and follow us on social media. All links can be found at curmudgeonsanddragons.com. Practice safe adventuring, my friends.